All right, today we're diving into a really fundamental question, one that's at the heart of Christianity. Who gets the final say on what's true? Is it some kind of central, unified church, or is it you, the individual believer? So let's just jump right to the core of this whole thing with a pretty wild question. What if everyone was their own pope? I mean, seriously, what happens when every single person becomes the ultimate final authority on matters of faith? So this idea of being your own pope, what does that actually mean? Well, there's a name for it. It's called private judgment. And really, it's the idea that you, the individual, become the final arbiter of religious truth. Not some big external institution, just you. And what this does in practice is put you squarely in the interpretive driver's seat. Think about it. Your personal understanding of the Bible, that becomes the highest court of appeal. It trumps everything else, any other authority. And you can see the appeal, right? It's a really powerful claim for individual conscience and freedom. Okay, so how did we even get here? How did this idea that the individual is the ultimate authority become so central for millions and millions of people? Well, the answer is tied to this one key theological principle, a principle that doesn't just make private judgment possible, it actually makes it a logical necessity. So here's how the logic works. Step one, you reject all those external authorities, like church tradition or a teaching office. So what's left? That leaves you with Scripture alone, or Sola Scriptura. But, and this is a big but, for that to actually work, you have to assume that the Bible is clear enough for pretty much anyone to pick up and understand on their own. And if you follow that logic to its conclusion, what's the inevitable result? You, the individual reader. You become the final judge of what it all means. And here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly a little ironic. Even Martin Luther, who was obviously a key promoter of this whole principle, reportedly got pretty worried by the results. He started complaining about what he called an anarchy of creeds and morals that was breaking out all over the place. So what does happen when you take this principle and apply it on a massive scale? Well, according to its critics, the result isn't just a few friendly disagreements. It's a full-blown crisis of certainty. And this number, wow, it kind of says it all, doesn't it? Critics argue that this principle of private judgment has led to this massive, incredible fragmentation of belief. We're talking over 40,000 different Protestant denominations, and each one, at its core, is founded on its own distinct interpretation of the very same scripture. And we're not talking about minor squabbles over small details here. We're talking about core fundamental doctrines. Take baptism, for example. Is it absolutely necessary for salvation? Or is it just a symbol? Or look at the Eucharist. Is Christ truly and physically present? Or is it just symbolic bread and wine? These are completely opposite, mutually exclusive interpretations. They literally can't both be right. And believe me, the consequences weren't just theological. This massive shift in who holds authority ended up igniting a whole century of devastating religious wars across Europe. This wasn't just a debate. It led to incredible social and political upheaval. And in the end, the only way secular rulers could figure out how to stop the chaos was to separate religion from politics. That move right there was a foundational moment for the modern world we live in today. So, faced with this picture of fragmentation and, deep uncertainty, the sources we're looking at here present a totally different path, an alternative system that's built on the idea of a central unifying authority. Now, it's really important to get this part right. The argument isn't that this is just some human invention, something created for convenience to keep things tidy. No, the claim is that this authority was divinely established, right from the very beginning, and its whole purpose, to guard and faithfully pass down the original teachings of the faith intact. So you might be wondering, where do they get this idea from? Well, proponents point to what they see as a clear pattern inside the Bible itself. You look at Moses in the Old Testament, you look at Peter and the apostles in the New, and they see this consistent model of God choosing to delegate his authority to specific human leaders. There's actually a really powerful analogy that helps make this whole thing clear. Imagine a law library. In one system, every single citizen has to go in and try to interpret these ancient, complex legal texts for themselves. Can you imagine? The result would be total chaos. That's private judgment. Now, on the other hand, imagine a Supreme Court, a body designed to provide a final, binding interpretation of those same laws. That's the system of church authority. Its goal is coherence and unity. And this quote right here, it really nails the core idea. The primary job of a central authority is to be a visible anchor, a living, breathing guarantee of unity for the entire church, not just for today, but across all of time and all around the world. So when you strip it all down, what we're really looking at are two fundamentally different paths to truth. And it's presented as a really fundamental choice that each of us has to think about. Let's just lay them out side by side. Path one is private judgment. Here, truth is subjective. It comes from your interpretation of the Bible. And the stated risk is, well, doctrinal chaos and fragmentation. Path two is church authority. Here, truth is presented as objective. It comes from Scripture and tradition, as interpreted by an official teaching body, with the promise of keeping things unified and certain. And all of this brings us right back to the essential, final question for you to think about. When it comes to the biggest questions of faith and truth, is a final human authority a necessary guide to keep us on track? Or is it the ultimate obstacle, something that actually stands between you and God? You know, in an age like ours that values individualism so highly, this centuries-old debate feels more relevant than ever.